Hey, hi everyone, and welcome to this lesson on creating a scatter diagram and looking at the correlationship between two variables. So I have my Jupyter Notebook up here, and again, I just want to make sure that you know that I am already in the folder that I wanted to be in. So I'm just going to import a file from this folder directly, and by doing this, it just simplifies the process. You don't have to insert the entire path of where your file actually is. So I'm just going to start by giving this notebook a name. I'm just going to call it correlation scatter diagram. You can call it whatever you'd like. And what I'm going to do this in two parts. This first part, I'm going to just run the scatter diagram and show it, look at the relationship between two variables. And in part 2, I'm going to do the linear regression, pull the equation, and show you how that can be useful. Okay, so for this example, I'm going to import Pandas as PD. I need Pandas for this. I'm going to import Matplotlib.pyplot as PLT, and I'm going to import Seaborn because I am going to use Seaborn to create my scatter diagram as S and S. And if you hit Shift Enter, which is the same as clicking on the cell here, Run, or on the button Run, that will run your cell and will import those libraries that you need for this exercise. So while the Jupyter Notebook is processing that, I'm just going to type here what I need next. I'm going to create a data frame, and I'm going to call it df equals to pd, which is pandas, pd read Excel. It's an Excel file. And I believe the name of the file is ice cream underscore sales.xlsx. So what I'm going to look at here is just the correlationship between temperatures in Celsius and ice cream sales. So let's execute this. Shift Enter. Make sure that I have the file. I always double check df.head parentheses. And yes, that's exactly what I was expecting. I can also do df.info to look at the entire data set that I have here. So I have two columns, temperature in Celsius, monthly sales. Both have 36 known values, temperature in Celsius integers, and then monthly sales floating points. That's great. That's exactly what I would like to see. Now, just to keep it clean and have more room for the graph here, I'm going to cut this out because I know I have what I need now. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is to create the graph. Now, I do have my entire code in my clipboard. I'm just going to paste it here, and I'm going to walk you through this and explain what's going on. The first line here in the code is something that I've getting used to do at all times now, so I can control better the size of the graph. So I'm creating an object here and calling it figure, and by doing this, my main goal is to control the size, in which I have now 10 by 8, and you'll see this in the graph in a bit. The second line, it's about the plot itself. So again, I'm using Seaborn to create the graph. So that is SNS.regplot, and then I have X, Y, my data set is sales, and then the color. Now I just realized there's something missing here. I'm going to insert a cell above, and what's missing here before I execute this is the definition of X and Y. So what I'm going to do here, again, I'm going to do df.head parentheses, just to see again what I have in the columns. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to select that cell and insert a cell below. I need to define what X and Y is. Now, I don't have to do it necessarily. I can also insert here the entire label of the column, in other words, temperature in Celsius or monthly sales CAD. But it's just wise to simplify this and put these long labels into a variable. So I'm going to create a variable called x, conveniently, because I'm going to plot that on the x-axis. And then in x, I'm going to go into the data frame and then grab that column. And I'm going to very carefully select that name there, temperature in Celsius, Control C, and I'm going to add that to this variable. So basically I'm saying grab temperature in C column, the data in column temperature in C, and stick it into the variable x. That's basically what I'm doing here. And again, this simplifies. From now on, everything that I want to do with the data set in terms of plotting, I can use x and y instead of temperature in Celsius and monthly sales. I'm going to do the exact same thing for y. And then again, I'm going to carefully grab that label there. I should execute this, Shift Enter. It looks like it's okay. And if you want to do a quick check, if you just simply type X here and Shift Enter, just to check, yeah, that's what I have, 12, 20, those are my temperatures. And this is the index, of course, that Jupyter creates. If you want to check Y, yeah, those are my monthly sales. Just as a check, we don't have to have that here. Okay, back to the graph. So now that I have my x and my y defined, so sns.regplot, x is temperature in Celsius and y is monthly sales. Now it's important to understand on a SCADA diagram, you're looking at the relationship between two variables. The one variable that it's called the independent variable or the predictor is your variable on the x-axis, which again I conveniently called x here. The y is your response variable, your dependent variable. So we are assuming here, we are claiming here that the higher the temperature, the more monthly sales. So not the opposite. I cannot say that the more I sell, the more ice cream I sell, the higher the temperature. That doesn't make sense at all. So there's always a dependent variable, which in this case is the monthly sales, and an independent variable, which in this case is the temperature in Celsius. Okay, so the data equals sales, which is not right. I think it should be here df, and the color equals G, which is green. I think I used sales before and I just changed to df, so my data frame is actually df, not sales. Okay, color G, green, and then I added a title. Okay, and I also chose a font size and a color for the title, and I'll customize this. And I'll explain what this does in a bit. So let's run the cell and see what's going on here. Okay, beautiful. I really liked how Seaborn displays the plots that it produces. It's really nice. Okay, the figure size here that I mentioned before. If I wanted to make this smaller, say at 8 by 6, for example, run it again. It just reduced the size, and again, I think having it big on the screen, it just looks neater. And if you need to copy this and paste a screenshot into a PowerPoint, it's going to have a better resolution. I've been working with the 10 by 8 quite a bit because on my laptop it's a great size. What else can we do here? I can change the color. There are a lot of different palettes and color schemes for Seaborn. You can search that up. They're all very nice, but simply just for the example here, I just changed green to blue. It looks just as great. The title, which is at the top here, correlation between temperature and C and ice cream sales. Again, I just typed this in here. Font size, I chose 16. If I change that to 14, for example, and if I change the color to, I believe M is magenta. Yes, so it just reduced the size of the title and the color of the title. Now, the scatter diagram itself, again, it's showing the temperature on the x-axis, which is my independent variable, or the predictor variable. And then on the y-axis, my monthly sales, or my dependent variable, or response variable. What we see here is the plot of the data points where x and y meets, individual data points. And then we have the linear, the trend line, which is showing here in this case a positive, moderate to strong correlationship. If you're not familiar with scatter diagrams, this is what it's showing here. In other words, as temperature goes up, monthly sales goes up. So it's important to say that this has nothing to do with numbers being negative or positive. It's the direction. So as x moves into this direction, going up, y does the same. So that is why this is a positive, and in this case, moderate type of correlationship. And the last thing that you see on the graph here is this shaded area, which is your 95% confidence interval for this model. So this is it. With a very few lines of coding. Basically, you have here you import your libraries, of course, you pull in your file, and then this is all the coding right here. You define your two variables, and that's, again, to simplify. You could still type in here the entire label if you'd like, but it's just in coding you wanted to simplify things. And this is the main code to create this scatter plot. Very simple. It creates very nice, neat-looking scatter diagrams using Seaborn, and that's all I wanted to show for now. Make sure you check the part 2 of this example, which is going to address the linear regression equation and the things that we can do with it.